Hi, I'm Mark. Thanks for joining me here in my wee workshop in County Down in Northern Ireland. Now, some folks asked me to do a part 3 of my embarrassing odours from your diesel heater saga because the last one didn't have a happy ending. So before we go any further, let me show you what I did after that. Well, as you can see, I've had to do quite a bit of maintenance because using that kerosene was a bad mistake. So I've had to disconnect it from the exhaust system, and I'm trying to burn off all the kero that's in there, and that red stuff in the tank. There is red diesel, agricultural diesel, which is perfectly legal in the UK provided it's not in a moving vehicle. And so it's burning off a lot of the white smoke now. It's a lot worse than, or it's a lot better than it had been earlier on. And I think I've managed to get this thing going again, and it's after about a day's work. So, glad to get this thing going. Yeah, I think it's burning clear now. And all this means, I think that the radiator was not a great idea. Perhaps the narrowing down of the exhaust pipe really was creating a bit of a back pressure, which may have doubled up the problem. But I think the real problem really there was that the kerosene was not a good idea. I quickly knocked up a little stand here so that the diesel heater could go on the bench. I could work at it more conveniently rather than having to squat on the floor. And you need something like this because of course the exhaust pipe comes out the bottom and the breather comes out as well. Having the stand made it easier to work at the pump, make sure that there was no kero left in the pump or the fuel lines, but it had drawn diesel on its own. Unfortunately, when the heater was trying to burn the kero and it couldn't do that, the raw diesel just kept going out through the air intake, and that's why I had to have this jug in here to catch it when I took the air intake hose off, which had pumped diesel right up into the hose. So when I took it off, a lot spilled out, which is on the floor here, which is going to make a stink, but not nearly as bad as the kerosene. There you are, I can see you now. A lot of folks wanted a part 3 on this, so I think it's only fair to say that before you put in the comments, I already know what an idiot I am. I should have done a lot more homework on this before I decided to do 2 experiments at once, which is a thing I would always say to people was a cardinal error. The other thing I can say is that running one of these diesel heaters on neat kerosene was a gross mistake. The white smoke that it pumped out was absolutely fierce. Perhaps it has to be cut with diesel in order to make this run properly. My experience of it was an unmitigated disaster. So my advice to you is, if you do want to use kerosene in your diesel heater, for goodness sake, do your homework. Don't do what I did. Don't just barge ahead. Do some homework and find out how it has to be administered. The other half of this experiment, of course, was the radiator and trying to reclaim the heat. I still think there's a lot of mileage in this, but I'm not convinced that using a radiator is the greatest way to do it. Maybe stepping down the diameter of the piping wasn't quite as successful as I'd hoped it would be. In other words, maybe there was some back pressure building up, and that was not damaging, but reducing the efficiency of the diesel heater. But I still have a trick up my sleeve to reclaim some of that exhaust pipe heat. The heater is now working perfectly well on red diesel. You can just see it in the tank there. And instead of the radiator, the exhaust pipe is hooked up to a length of 22mm copper pipe joined with soldered Yorkshire fittings. And a big thank you to Ben at Ben's Workshop for explaining to me what I was doing wrong when I soldered the one in the previous video, and I knew I was making a mess of it, but it took an expert to tell me how I was doing it. The joint with the exhaust pipe is covered in gun gum, and I hope that will preclude any possibility of the leakage of exhaust. But just to be on the safe side, I have a carbon monoxide detector here, and I heartily recommend those for anybody who has one of these or two of these diesel heaters in their workspace. So the air is lovely and warm, and the copper pipe is now too hot to touch. Let me show you how hot that is with my squirty water bottle. Can you see that? Look at that. Oh, that's hot. There's the exhaust pipe coming out. I used a compression fitting in case I have to undo this and remove the pipe that way, but there it is. And as you can see, the exhaust gas, which is still fairly hot coming out there, is now running completely clear, so it means we've got rid of that kerosene completely. Oh, which is a relief. I think I'll call this a success. I'm going to be very careful and keep my eye on those joints, make sure there are no exhaust leaks. I'm going to get myself a second little carbon monoxide detector, put it elsewhere, maybe put it along here somewhere, just to be on the safe side. Better safe than sorry. And I think we'll call that job done. Oh. So eventually I got rid of the kerosene. It was burning with clouds and clouds of white smoke. It just didn't work out for me, despite a lot of people saying it's a much better fuel. It didn't work for me, which is a shame because it's a lot cheaper than the red diesel. I gotta say, for me, it's once bitten, twice shy. I won't be going back to the kerosene anytime soon, but who knows in the future. It's really my fault. I should have done my homework much better than this. You know, I don't know. Are you supposed to cut it with diesel? Is there a particular way to introduce it? I just don't know. One thing that I would say about it is that I didn't treat the kerosene as if it is a hazardous material. Now, I'm from a scientific background, and our credo is always to treat all chemicals as if they're hazardous. When it dripped on my shoe, it got through my boot, through my sock, and it got onto my skin and gave me a red rash, and some of my skin peeled off as well. Now, it was no big deal. It was just itchy and like that, and it went away after 3 or 4 days. But for other people, they may have more serious issues with exposure to kerosene. So for goodness sake, be careful. You know, treat everything like it's dangerous. That way you won't come to grief, you know. And so why did I get rid of the radiator? Well, this is more of a long story. You want to settle down. I watched Craig at the Doghouse again, the video that I recommended last time, and it occurred to me that he was actually maintaining his diesel heater because he had, I think, bearing trouble or something like that, possibly because it had suited up a little bit. I wondered if this was maybe because he was getting back pressure from the exhaust, because he might have stepped down the pipe that's required to take the exhaust away to get it through his radiator. I decided that I wouldn't take that chance, so instead of having stepping it down from 22mm to 15mm and then putting it through the radiator, because that's the size all those fittings are, I would just have one length of 22mm diameter pipe and take it out through that. The copper pipe is an excellent conductor of heat, so it takes a lot of the heat away from the exhaust gas and puts it into the workspace, which is what the idea was in the first place. So all's well that ends well. Well, not exactly. This saga, of course, is about embarrassing odours that come from your diesel heater, and I still have a slight odour of burnt diesel from one or both of the heaters. It's not huge, it's not insidious, it's not sickening or anything like that, but you can smell it a little bit. My only worry is that this might be an exhaust gas leak coming from one or both of the heaters. That would be serious. I'm going to keep my eye on this, I'm going to keep my nose on this problem for as long as it takes to try and eliminate this. In the meantime, if you're going to do this, of course be careful about how you make your joints in these pipes. Don't take any chances, and above all, get yourself a good carbon monoxide detector or two. So I guess that's all I want to say about this for the moment. Thanks so much for looking in. God's greatest blessings on you. And the next time we meet, let's do something different. I'm getting a bit fed up with diesel heaters. So thanks for watching. Remember, I do stupid things, so you don't have to. Thanks for watching. What a moron.